Our topic for today is farm machinery and implements, part B. While introducing the previous lesson, which is the part A of this topic, farm machines and implements, I made mention of the Industrial Revolution, which was a period of change in the production sector of the global economy from producing manually to heavy dependence on the use of machines for production, and of which the agricultural sector was not left out. In part A, we discussed some farm machines like the tractor, the bulldozer, tree puller, incubator, and milking machine. Our focus in the part B is on tractor-coupled implements and some other simple farm machines like planters, harvesters, and sprayers. And by the end of the lesson, you should be able to describe the tractor-coupled implements, highlighting their advantages and disadvantages. You should also be able to describe other simple farm machines, stating their types, functions, and maintenance. And finally, you should be able to discuss the maintenance practices and precautionary measures of farm machines. So let's take a look at tractor-coupled implements. Now, what are tractor-coupled implements? These are implements which are coupled or attached to a tractor in order to enable it to perform its work. So such implements cannot be put to work without them being coupled to a tractor. Now, examples of such tractor-coupled implements are the plows, the harrows, the ridges. Let's take a look at the plow. You can see a picture of a plow, how they look. We have the disc plow and the moldboard plow. So that's a picture of how the plow looks like. So the plow is a primary tillage implement. Why is it primary? Because it's the first implement that is required in land preparation. So when you have a virgin land and you want to till it, the first implement you're to use on such a land is called the plow. And the plow can either be pulled by a work animal or by a tractor. So it's a tractor. It can be coupled to a work animal like the bulls or the bullocks or donkeys, or it can be coupled to a tractor. Now we have different types of plows. We have the disc plow, the moldboard plow, and animal-driven plow. So let's look at the disc plow and let's understand how the disc plow looks like. Now, the disc plow is a strong primary implement, primary because it is what is used first on the land. It's a strong primary implement adapted to the tropical environment. You know, we have the temperate environment, the cold regions. They also have the tropical environments, which are the hot regions. So it's adapted to the tropical environment where the soil contains stones, hard pans, and roots of plants. So it can work efficiently under these conditions. So this is a disc plow with the various parts that have been labeled. So take a good look at the labeling in order to understand the various parts of a disc plow. So we're going to look at the parts of a disc plow and their functions. So taking a look at this picture, you can see the disc plow, how it looks. We have a part called the beam or the frame. So for whatever explanation I give, you also look at the picture there to understand where it is located. So we have the beam or the frame. And what's the function of the beam or frame? It helps to hold the disc in position. The disc are those round concave structures on the plow. Look at the picture, you'll be able to locate where the disc is. This is the disc here, concave disc. So the beam frame or frame helps to hold the disc in position, or it's used for the attachment of the disc. It also bears additional weight for greater depth because when plowing, going down into the soil, you need some weight. So the beam helps to bear additional weight. We have the hitch or coupling point. Now this provides an attachment where this plow is attached to a tractor or a work animal. So you can see the hitch point here. We have the upper hitch point, which is actually connected to the 3-point linkage, which I explained in our previous class. That's the part A of this class. Then we also have the lower hitch point here. So all of this can be used to be as a point by which you can attach this disc plow, this implement to the tractor or an animal. We have the scraper. Now, what's the purpose of the scraper? From our picture, you can see the scraper. It helps to remove soil or mud that clings to the soil, to the disc. You know, it can work on muddy soils and heavy soils. So, but in the process of working on it, some of the soil gets clinged to the disc. And so there's a part of the plow that's called a scraper. This helps to remove mud while the implement is being used. We also have the concave disc or the disc, as I've stated earlier. That's those round structures that are part of the implement. So it's called the concave disc or disc, and it rotates and makes vertical and horizontal cuts into the soil as the tractor moves forward. It also inverts the soil. So after cutting the soil, it turns it over, which helps to bury weeds. So it cuts the soil and turns it over. We have the disc bearing. This helps to hold the disc and allows its continuous rotation. We have the furrow wheel. The furrow wheel is at the back here. Here they call it the red thrust wheel. It's also called the furrow wheel. It provides balancing effect for the plow as it supports both the vertical and side thrust. So the furrow wheel helps to provide some balancing effect for the plow. We have the spring, and what does the spring do? You can see in the picture the spring. It acts as a shock absorber for the plow during movement. We have what is called the standard. Now the standard helps to hold the disc firmly to the beam. Look at the picture here, you can see the standard here. It helps to hold the disc firmly to the beam or frame. We also have what is called the beam cap. Now this covers the hollow end of the beam, that is here. This is where the beam cap is. Now let's take a look at the advantages of using a disc plow. It's capable of working on or tilling or molding heavy soils. Remember, in tropical environment, we have such type of soil, so the disc plow is capable of working on such heavy soils. It's also designed to roll over stumps and obstacles because the disc helps it to roll over. Then roots of trees that grow extensively deep in the soil are easily removed by the disc plow. It can also make deeper cuts as compared to the moldboard plow. Remember, we talked about three types of plows: the disc plow, the moldboard plow, and the animal-driven plow. And the disc also buries weeds more completely than the moldboard plow. Remember, it inverts the weed. After making deep cuts, it turns it over. So that helps to bury weeds. It also has disadvantages. Just as it has its advantages, so does the disc plow also have some disadvantages. So let's take a look at the disadvantages of using the disc plow. One is can cause soil compaction due to its heavy weight. Remember, we mentioned that the beam helps to give additional weight, but that being an advantage can also be a disadvantage. This could lead to compaction of the soil. Then it can also result in soil erosion. Once the soil structure has been tampered with or made compact, that means infiltration of water or percolation of water is reduced. This can lead to soil erosion, and it can also destroy the structure of the soil. The next type of plow we have is the moldboard plow. Now, it's also a primary implement used for land preparation. Primary in the sense that it is the first implement that is used while tilling our land. But here, the moldboard plow is used in temperate or light soils. So tropical soils are heavy soils, temperate soils are light soils. And in such soils, we have no rocks, hard pans, or plant roots. So it is not as strong as the disc plow. Let's look at the parts of the moldboard plow and their functions. It also has a beam or frame. And what's the purpose of the beam or frame? It helps to carry the plow and other components and also bears additional weight for greater depth. We have the coupling point, which provides attachment to the tractor or the work animal. We have the coulter or vertical disc. Here, the vertical disc makes vertical cuts or furrows, while the shear point makes horizontal cuts, as different from the disc plow, where the disc makes both vertical and horizontal cuts. But for the moldboard plow, we have a part called the vertical disc or the coulter, and the shear point or shear, which makes horizontal cuts and uproots weeds as well. And the standard helps to hold the moldboard and shear point helps to hold it together. Okay, so that's the standard. Okay, the mold board is another component of the mold board plow. You can see that it's a large, gentle, curving metallic sheet that inverts the furrow, slice, or the surl, and it's located at the back of the shear point or the shear. So this is the mold board and this is the shear or shear point, and it helps to invert weeds or exposes the roots of weeds. We also have the furrow wheel. Now the furrow wheel provides balancing effect for the plow as it supports both the vertical and side thrust. Now let's take a look at the advantages of using a mold board plow. It can only be used in temperate or light soils, and it can only be used in soils that are free from stones, storms, and hard pans. It also has its disadvantages. So let's take a look at the disadvantages. It cannot be used very well in tropical environments. Remember, it's for temperate environments or light soils, so it cannot be used in tropical environments or tropical or heavy soils. Then it's not as strong as a disc plow, and it also loses its shear point when it comes in contact with any obstacle. Then it can also lead to soil compaction when used often, and it can predispose the soil to erosion. Once the soil gets compacted, that can lead to soil erosion. So it predisposes the soil to erosion. We have the animal-driven mold board plow as the third type of plow. So in the picture, you can see how an animal-driven mold board plow looks like with the various parts. You can see the mold board, the plow shear or the shear point. We have the wheel, we have the point of attachment to the work animal, which is the hitch. We also have the handles for the operator. So there has to be an operator while it's attached to the animals involved in using the animal-driven mold board plow. So you can see it in use. The handle, the farmer is holding it to help direct it, and we can see the animals by which it has been attached to. So let's take a look at this subtopic, which says reasons why the disc plow is preferred to the mold board plow for soils in West Africa. So there are some reasons why the disc plow is preferred to the mold board plow for soils in West Africa. Let's take a look at the reasons. The first we have is that the soils often contain many obstacles. That soils in West Africa, which is a tropical environment, usually contains many obstacles such as rocks and stumps which are buried in the soil, and the disc plow can easily roll over these obstacles, which can be damaged by the mold board plow. So if the mold board plow is used in such circumstances, it gets damaged. The shear point especially gets damaged. Okay, now soil surfaces are generally hard in West Africa, and these can be more easily worked by the disc plow. So it's easier to work on such hard pans in West African soils that's using the disc plow as compared to the mold board plow. Now, the disc plow also cuts deeper than the mold board plow, and it also works better on heavy or clay soils as compared to the mold board plow. So these are the reasons why the disc plow is preferred to the mold board plow. Now let's look at the general functions of the plow. General functions of the plow cuts through the soil and turns it over to form soil clods. These soil clods are also called lumps. They can be used to control weeds. It can also help to improve the aeration of the soil, thus creating more room for air to go through the soil. It buries plants or crop residues. This helps to improve the fertility of the soil, because as these plant residues are buried, they end up decomposing and releasing minerals or nutrients into the soil that could be used by the plants for growth. They also help to mix the soil together, and they can help to improve, or the plow helps to improve infiltration capacity, which increases the water content of the soil. That means percolation or infiltration, which is the downward movement of water into the soil. So plowing helps to improve infiltration capacity of our soils. Now let's look at another tractor coupled implement called the harrow. So we've dealt with the plow. Now we're going to look at the harrow. The harrow is a secondary tillage implement. Why is it called a secondary tillage implement? Because it's used after the primary tillage implement, which is the plow. So after the plow, we make use of the harrow. So the plow is a primary implement, the harrow is a secondary tillage implement. which is used for land preparation. It can also be pulled by work animals or by a tractor. So it's a tractor coupled implement, and it is used immediately after plowing and before ridging. So when you use the plow, you now use the harrow. After the harrow, you use the ridger. So we're on the harrow now. Let's get to understand better about the harrow. Now we have different types of harrows. We have the disc harrows, we have the cultivators, and we have the spike-toothed harrow. Now under the cultivators, we have two types. We have the spring-tine cultivator and the rotary cultivator. So let's look at the disc harrow. From the picture there, you can see how a disc harrow looks like. It has numerous discs, which are spaced closer on a common shaft to form a gang. So it's spaced closer as compared to the plow, the disc plow. If you look at the disc harrow, you can see that the discs are placed closer to form a common shaft, which is called a gang, or closer on a common shaft to form a gang. Now there may be one or two gangs working in the same or opposite direction. Look at the picture, you can see the gangs, you can see one or two working in the same or opposite directions. So this is a label diagram of the disc plow. You can see the transport wheel, the steel disc, the scrapers to remove soil that are accumulated, then the drawbar for attachment to the animal or the tractor. So what's the function or the use of the disc harrow? It helps to break up soils, lumps, or clods created by the plow. So the plow breaks up the soil into large lumps, while the disc harrow helps to break it down into finer tilth, into smaller sizes. So it pulverizes the soil and puts it in fine particles and levels the soil. So you can see the use of the disc plow helps to break those large soil lumps or clods found by the plow into tinier particles. Then it's also used to remove weeds. The disc harrow can be used to remove weeds. It can also be used to cover seeds and fertilizers with the soil. And it can also be used to spread organic manure on the field and mixes them with the soil. So these are the functions or the uses of the disc harrow. Now we have the cultivator. It's a type of harrow, and there are two types here. We have the spring-tine cultivator and the rotary cultivator. Now let's look at what a cultivator is, or how it looks like. It consists of a rectangular beam. You can see the rectangular beam here. This is a rectangular beam in which strong pointed and vertical stalks are attached. So you can see the strong pointed vertical stalks. So these are the stalks attached to the beam. So the vertical stalks are bent forward. You can see that it's bent forward. This enables it to till the soil and withstand obstacles within the soil. And I said there are two types. We have the spring-tine cultivator and the rotary cultivator. Now let's look at the spring-tine cultivator that is used for row crops like vegetables and potatoes. So this particular picture I'm showing is a spring-tine cultivator. We also have a labeled diagram of the spring-tine cultivator. You can see the vertical stalks, the coupling point, and the beam. What's the function or the use of the spring-tine cultivator or harrow? Let's look at it. It helps to break down large soil lumps or clods which remain after plowing. It aids weed combing, that's the removal of weeds from the soil. It can also be used to drag the roots and stones out of soil. So it can be used to drag roots and stones out of the soil, and can also be used for weeding and fertilizing or fertilizer application. It can also help to air the soil without turning it over. So it just breaks up the soil clods more without turning it over, creating better room for aeration. The second type of cultivator, as I said earlier, is the rotary cultivator, and is used for crops that are more widely spaced as compared to the spring-tine cultivator that I mentioned earlier. So the rotary cultivator is used for crops that are more widely spaced. So the major use is to complete the making of seed beds in one single operation. Now the third type of harrow we have is the spike-toothed harrow. So you can, from the picture, you can see how a spike-toothed harrow looks like. So it consists of a row of rigid spikes, and it can only till soil shallowly at just about 1 centimeter deep. Let's look at the functions of the spike-toothed harrow. It's very good for preparing soils for vegetable farming on a large scale and also for the removal of weeds. Let's go to the third tractor-coupled implement, which is called the ridger. So we've talked about the plow, we've talked about the harrow, now we're talking about the ridger. Now the ridger is a secondary tillage implement, just like the harrow is also a secondary tillage implement because it is used after the primary tillage implement, which is the plow. So it's a secondary tillage implement or soil cultivation implement used for land preparation. So it's used after the harrow but before the planter. And we have two types. We have the disc ridger and the moldboard ridger. So this is a picture of the disc ridger. This is a label diagram of the disc ridger. So you can see the point of attachment to the tractor. It has a beam. It also has a disc and opposed single discs. This is a moldboard ridger. This is a picture of how a moldboard ridger looks like. So how does the ridger work? They said there are two sets of opposed single disc or moldboard. So two sets of opposed single disc or moldboard. The two discs in each set help to make two full ridges. So you can see the two full ridges made by each two discs in each set, while the remaining disc on each set makes a half ridge. You can see the remaining disc here making a half ridge, same as this other side making a half ridge. So thus a total of two full ridges are made on each trip. So as it's going on this trip, this is a trip moving to the left now, it has made two full ridges. When it's coming back, it will now complete this half ridge plus two full ridges, making it three full ridges, still plus a half, which is made. So that's how the ridger works. Let's look at the functions of the uses of the ridger. It's used mainly to make ridges. It also helps to ease the penetration of roots and tubers of crops after use. Then it helps to control erosion as well as improve aeration. That's the movement of air within the soil. And it can also ease the percolation of water. That's the movement of water down into the soil. And it also helps to collect together the rich topsoil, thereby increasing nutrients availability. Now let's look at the reason why secondary tillage is necessary before sowing seeds. Sowing seeds means planting of our seeds on our farm. Why is it necessary for a farmer to carry out secondary tillage? Now it provides a fine tilt for seed germination and emergence. Remember, the plow breaks up the soil into large clods. The harrow further breaks it into finer tilts or particles, and finally use the ridger. So all of this helps to enhance seed germination and emergence. It also enhances a good soil structure for better root development. It also helps soil aeration, that's the movement of air within the soil. It helps to control weeds, especially when the seeds have become exposed on tillage, thereby exposing these seeds on tillage, and this helps to reduce early weed competition. It also helps to improve infiltration or soil water percolation. That's the movement of water down into the soil. Let's take a look at some other simple farm machines. We have the planters, which are also called the seed drill. Let's understand how the seed drill or the planter looks like. Okay, it could be hand operated, or it could also be tractor coupled or mounted. It has a large container or a hopper. It also has a ratchet and an agitator inside the container. It also has spaced coulters or furrow openers in front of the hopper. Then there's also a furrow covering device behind the hopper and a roller behind the furrow covering device. And there are also two long handles by which the operator holds to operate the equipment, and it's also mounted on two wheels. So types of planters or seed drills. We have the broadcast crop planters, the row crop planters, the precision planters, and the grain drill planter. So this is the broadcast crop planter. Now this is designed to plant seeds by a random scattering of the seed. From the word broadcast, we used to like scatter it on the field. So this diagram or this picture helps us to can see the seeds being scattered or broadcast on the field. We have the row crop planter. This is designed to plant seeds along the rows in ridges. So this picture helps us to see how a row crop planter looks like. Then we also have the precision planters. These are designed to place the correct number of seeds into a hole with regular spacing within and between the rows. So within, that means on the rows. Between the rows, that means between two rows. So the precision planter is designed to place the correct number of seeds into a hole with regular spacing within and between the holes. We have the precision planter still continued. You can see it can also be hand operated. The previous picture was tractor operated. Now you can see how a hand operated precision planter looks like. We have the grain drill planters. This is designed to place the correct number of seeds into the soil and space them between rows but not within rows. So parts of a hand-operated precision seed drill and planter and their functions. So this was what I was explaining earlier when I started talking about planters, describing the various parts, when I talked about the description of a planter. So this will help us to understand better what I said earlier. So now we have the handles. Now they aid the operator to direct and control the planter. So you can see the handles for operation. Then we have the furrow opener or hole digger. It digs holes in front into which the seeds drop. So we see the furrow opener for digging the holes in front into which the seeds drop. Now the seeds are located here in the seed box. So let's go on. We have the seed hose or seed tube. So you can see the seed tube connected to the seed box. So it directs the seeds from the base of the hopper, which is also known as the seed box, into the seed hole dug. Then we have the seed box or the seed hopper, which is this, where the seeds are contained to be planted. The furrow wheel or press, the furrow press or wheel press or roller. Now it presses the soil to cover the seeds dropped into the hole. So you can see this is a furrow press or roller. Then we have the marker. This traces the next furrow. We also have the coupling point, serves as point of attachment to the tractor or work animal. Then we have the wheels. This aids movement. Now let's look at the maintenance of the planter. The planter needs to be maintained. So how can we maintain the planter? A planter should be used for the purpose for which it is meant. So don't use it for any other purpose. Use it for the purpose for which it is meant. It is meant to plant seeds. It should also be dismantled and washed or cleaned after use, and you should store it in a cool, dry place. It has metal parts, and these metal parts should be oiled or greased to prevent rusting. The bolts and nuts should also be inspected and tightened regularly, and when the parts get worn out, those parts should be replaced. And you should also lubricate all movable parts. Harvesters. This is another simple farm machine. Now, these are machines or implements designed primarily to facilitate the process of harvesting various crops. So when you cultivate your crops and they reach maturity and they need to be harvested, you can use harvesters to harvest your crops. Okay, let's take a look at the types of harvesters. We have the mower. Now this is used to clear weeds and other lower or small grasses. It can also be used to harvest forage grasses for hay and silage making. Hay has to do with dry grass that is preserved and kept to feed our farm animals, and silage has to do with grass that undergoes fermentation, which can be fed to our animals. Is also very palatable. So the mower can help to harvest forage grasses for hay and silage making. We have the forage harvesters. Now these are used to harvest and chop green row crops. It can also combine the work of both the row binding and silage cutter, so it cuts it and binds the forage. So it can also be, it also helps to remove drudgery, which is difficulty of lifting and loading of several tons of green bundles of maize per hectare. It can also produce silage at a reduced cost and helps to prevent loss of moisture on forage crops. Now this is how a forage harvester looks like. We have another type of harvester called the combined harvester. Now the function, it combines the function of both harvesting and threshing of grains at the same time. It also helps to separate grains from the cobs or straws and eventually cleans these grains by separating them from the chaff. It ensures that the passage of the grains and the chaff are through different nozzles. And this is how a combined harvester looks like. Let's look at sprayers. Now let's describe sprayers. They are used for application of chemicals. They have the following essential parts. They have the tank, which may be plastic, steel or galvanized iron, and that contains chemicals. It also has a pump, it has the boom, it has the spray nozzle and the pressure gauge. Now it uses compressed air to drive the spray. So let's look at the different types of sprayers. We have the handgun sprayer. We have the ultra low volume sprayer, which contains about 1 liter of chemical at a time and is powered by batteries. You can see from the picture how it looks like. We have the knapsack, which is also called the pneumatic sprayer, which is hand operated. Now the pressure needed to spray the chemicals is provided by hand and it relies on compressed air. So we have the hand operated knapsack sprayer. See the demonstration of how it is used, or the picture on the right, and the parts of the various components of the knapsack sprayer. We have the tank lead, we have the tank, we have the pump, we have the hose, we have the trigger, we have the straps, the pump handle, the lance, and we have the nozzle. So the motorized, we also have what is called the motorized knapsack sprayer, and the pressure needed to spray the chemical is provided by fuel or petrol. So this is how a motorized knapsack sprayer looks like, and see it in use by a farmer. So the pressure is provided by fuel. We have the electrodyne knapsack sprayer, and the pressure needed to spray the chemical is provided by electricity or battery. So take a look at the picture. You can see how the electrodyne knapsack sprayer looks like. We have the tractor mounted or the boom sprayer. Now this is mounted behind the tractor during spraying. So the tractor mounted sprayer is also called the boom sprayer. From the picture you can see how it looks. We have the helicopter mounted sprayer. Now this is mounted on a helicopter, which can be used to spray over very large areas of land. The next type of sprayer is the fogging machine or sprayer. Now this produces very light humidity that does not wet or soak like mist. So what comes out of the fogging machine is just very light humidity. Now it's powered by fuel. Now this is a picture of the fogging machine and the various parts of the fogging machine. We have hydraulic sprayers. Now this is how a hydraulic sprayer looks like. It's used in cocoa farms especially. We also have foot sprayers. Now this can be used to spray tall trees. So from the picture you can see how the foot sprayer looks like and how it's used. Let's look at the functions of the components of a sprayer. Now the sprayer has a tank, and what's the purpose of the tank? This helps to carry and store liquid chemicals, and this tank is made up of non-corrosive metals or plastic to prevent rusting. It also has the nozzle. Now what's the function of the nozzle? This is a device that is used to discharge chemicals. So chemical is discharged through the nozzle at a given rate, and the particles or droplets are given out at the correct sizes. We also have the pump, which is a component of the sprayer. Now this helps to impact the correct pressure to the liquid carrier, and with the appropriate nozzle it helps to deliver, and with the appropriate nozzle it delivers the pump. So we have the pressure gauge. Now this is located on the side of the pump to help monitor pressure. We have the boom or extension pipe. Now this is a tabular frame or pipe to which the nozzles are attached. We also have the control valve. This helps regulate the flow of the liquid chemical. Then we have the filters. Now this helps to ensure free flow by trapping unwanted materials. It is located in the tank and the nozzle. So take note of that. The filters are located in the tank and nozzle. Let's look at the function of a sprayer. What's the use of a sprayer? Now the sprayer can be used to control the growth of weeds through the use of herbicides. Herbicides are chemicals that can be used to control weeds, so you can put the herbicides into the sprayer and apply it to weeds, and this helps to kill the weeds on the farm. It can also be used to control insects through the use of insecticides, which are chemicals that be used to control or to kill insects. These chemicals can be put into the sprayer and applied to our farms to control pests, insect pests. It can also be used to spray disinfectants in our livestock houses and structures. So our livestock houses and structures need to be disinfected before restocking to produce our animals. So we need to kill off pathogens that are maybe breeding in the livestock houses. So you can use the sprayers to achieve that. It can also be used for light irrigation or watering of vegetable beds. So the sprayer, we have a watering can, which is the ideal to use for light irrigation of our vegetable beds. But in absence of that, you can also use the knapsack sprayer or the sprayers to help achieve that. It can also be used to spray liquid fertilizers and pesticides. Actually, when fertilizers are applied through an irrigation system, it's called fertigation. So the sprayers can be used to apply liquid fertilizers and pesticides. Now, when spraying chemicals, there are certain precautions that you need to observe or you need to take. So let's take a look at the precautions to take when spraying chemicals. One, do not spray on a windy day. So when there's a lot of wind, it can affect the target of the chemicals to the plants or the part of the plant you want to reach out to. So on a windy day, the force of wind will be pushing off the chemicals while in motion. So we need to avoid spraying on a windy day. Do not spray on a rainy day as well, because if you spray on a rainy day, immediately you finish spraying and it rains, it washes the chemicals from the plant, and that would lead to a failure or less impact of the chemicals on the plant or the pest or the disease or whatever you're trying to control. Now, do not spray in hot weather, especially in the afternoon. This could make the chemical become toxic to the plant because of the heat. So you should avoid spraying on a hot weather. Then the operator of the sprayers should ensure that you wear protective clothing when using sprayers, because remember, you're talking about chemicals that are put into the tank to spray on the plants or to control pests or to disinfect plant buildings of or structures for our animals. You need to wear protective clothing like face masks, gloves, overalls, and boots when spraying to avoid contact of the chemicals with your skin. It could be hazardous. Now, also, do not draw water from the river with the chemical container, that's the tank. Do not take it after use and dip into a river, because it's made up of chemicals which could be harmful to aquatic organisms in water. You should also adhere to the manufacturer's specification or instructions while using the sprayer. You should also blow block nozzles with one's mouth when spraying. For example, if the nozzles get blocked, that's the point through which the droplets of the chemicals come out from. If it gets blocked, you should blow it off to get rid of any hindrances. Now, do not talk, smoke, or eat, or even drink when spraying. Let's look at the general maintenance practices of our farm machines and implements. Our farm machines and implements need to be maintained. So what are the general maintenance practices? One, you should keep all implements clean by removing all trashes and mods from them at the start, that's before you make use of them, and at the end of the operations. Ensure that the implements are kept clean. These implements have nuts, caps, or screws. You should ensure that they are tight. They're also made of metal, either metal joints or bearings, to ensure that they are greased. And you should also adhere to the manufacturer's instruction or the manufacturer's manual. You should also replace worn-out parts. When the parts get worn out, they should be replaced. You should also keep the machines and implements in a cool, dry place or environment. And finally, you should also employ a competent and experienced operator who can help to handle or operate these machines. Thank you. So let's have a recap on what we've learned so far in this lesson. We learned that tractor-coupled implements are devices such as the plow, the harrow, the ridges, the planters, cultivators, harvesters, sprayers, mowers, balers, which can be attached to tractors to enable them work. We highlighted the maintenance practices of farm machines, which involves keeping these implements clean after use, ensuring that the bolts and nuts are tight, greasing of the metal parts, and adhering to manufacturer's instruction, just to mention a few. So let's take a look at some questions based on what I've taught you. Let's go to our exam guide and answer some questions. From this question, it says, study the illustration of farm implements below and use it to answer the question below. I said the part of the implement labeled 1 is called, so you can see that this is a plow. This is a plow. We have the moldboard plow and the disc plow. So the part of the implement labeled 1, that's this. A, the disc. B, beam. C, disc scraper. D, plowshare. The answer is the beam. So this part is called the beam. Still on the question, they said, still on this diagram or the illustration of the farm implement, the next question says, the part of the implement which makes horizontal cuts into the soil and uproots weeds is labeled as horizontal cuts. That's where we should be, they're referring to the moldboard plow, because that's the part that is labeled. This is the shear point and this is the moldboard. So this shear point makes horizontal cuts while the moldboard makes vertical cuts. So the answer is D. The next question, still on this implement, it says the function of the part labeled 2 is to. Now this is 2, this is the disc plow. It said A, make horizontal cuts into the soil. B, make vertical cuts into the soil. C, roll over obstacles. D, remove soil from the disc. I'll take it again. Still on this implement, the next question says, the function of the part labeled 2 is to. The part labeled 2 is here, you can see it, is to A, make horizontal cuts into the soil. B, make vertical cuts into the soil. C, roll over obstacles. And D, remove soil from the disc. Now this part is actually the disc scraper, and the purpose of the disc scraper is to remove soil from the disc. So the answer is D. Now this still on this implement, the next question says, which of the labeled parts provide balance to the implement? Now we can see from the disc plow, number 3, this is the furrow wheel, and the furrow wheel is for balancing of the implement. So the answer here is C.